Hey, hello everyone, I'm David Guerrero and welcome back to another video here on Many Ways Films. In the video of today, I want to talk once more about the Nikon Z8, more specifically about using this camera for wedding videography. I made a video before talking about this camera for portrait photography. I guess that video can include wedding photography. I might talk about that in another video about wedding photography with the Nikon Z8, but I feel like that video, Nikon Z8 for portrait photography kind of covers that. So in the video of today, I just want to talk about using this camera, the Nikon Z8 for wedding videography. A couple weeks ago, I had my first wedding event where I used the Nikon Z8 specifically and only for video. Well, I got a couple pictures with the Nikon Z8 as well, but I use the Nikon Z6 too as my photography camera, and I try to use that camera exclusively for photography and the Nikon Z8 only for video when I'm hired to do both. In this situation, I had an assistant, my cousin Beto, who is a really good photographer, and he helped me photograph this wedding, and I focused mostly on the video aspect of it. And like I said, there were moments where I did photography with the Nikon Z8 and photography with the Nikon Z6 too, but I only use the Nikon Z8 for the video side of it. Right away, I want to say that this camera does not disappoint. It just works how it's meant to work. The camera focuses wherever I wanted to focus. You have many options in this camera if you want to focus on faces, on birds, on planes, on cars, cats, dogs. You have that option. You can change that in the camera, and then you can choose if you want to focus in the center area. You can move your focus area or the auto area or 3D tracking and many different options. So I feel like if you get to know this camera at least a little bit, you are gonna easily find yourself knowing what to do in every situation. The camera also focuses very well in low light situations. There is a moment at the end of the wedding where they are walking away, they're leaving the wedding, the bride and the groom, and that was a really dark scene. There was no light really, and the camera focused really well. In my opinion, I had no problem with the camera focusing. Even in situations like that where light is challenging, the camera will focus really well. I don't tend to go over 8000 ISO. I feel like that's kind of my limit with this camera. I think it would still look fine, but if you want to go higher than that, it will probably not be the prettiest image, but it's also not terrible. You have to have in mind that if you want to shoot, let's say, Nikon RAW in 12-bit and shoot it in 4K at 24 frames, you're gonna be able to shoot for about an hour and a half with a 500 gigabyte CF Express Type B. That's what I've been using for a little bit now. I used to shoot with the XQD cards, and they work fine, but I feel like they get hot faster than the CF Express ones. And at least this Sony XQD is not as fast as the CF Express. So that's just my experience. I haven't experimented with other brands and anything like that. So yeah, I'm just shooting with the CF Express 500 gigabyte, 526. So I'm only able to shoot for an hour and a half with at those settings. Have in mind that throughout this wedding day, I like to shoot a couple things in 60. I don't usually go over that, like 120, which you can. And in my experience, the camera didn't overheat, the card didn't overheat, everything worked out fine. But you're gonna go through your memory way faster if you're changing between frame rate. So just something to have in mind. Most of it I shot it at 24 frames, but there's a couple moments where I decided to shoot at 60. I would recommend bringing two cards, like at least bringing a 1 terabyte if you're gonna be shooting a wedding in those settings, and that's at least. This is a wedding that I shot from like 12 p.m. till 12 a.m. So it was a 12-hour shoot. I wasn't all the time recording, I would get some clips. You know how it is when you're shooting weddings. But I run through one of my cards and I barely use the other one. Even that I was shooting at 60 and 120 and 24. So that's something to consider. But I think in the end, it's totally worth it. Just from watching the clips that I have, I was very happy with the results. And like I've said in many of my videos, I'm not a colorist. I don't claim to be one. I don't call myself one. I just, know the minimum to be able to get a good result so that my video looks good, it looks presentable. I practice and practice and practice so that my video can look better and better and better. So I love editing. I really enjoy that. So that's something that I want to keep getting good at. But that's not important. The camera is heavy. It is heavy. Like if you compare it to a C6, a C6 II, it's a little bit heavier, but nothing too crazy. If you're gonna be standing, holding this camera for long periods of time, I don't know. I would suggest bring a tripod with you just in case. I mean, after a while, my back got tired more than anything, and it can get exhausting. But I don't think the weight is like crazy heavy. I was also shooting with like the 28 millimeter 2.8 from the C line and the 50. I shot with the 85 and that gets pretty heavy, but with the 50 and the 28, it worked out pretty well. Also, if you want to be using this camera for both video and pictures, this is the camera to go with. You can change between video and picture instantly. You don't have to wait even a second for you to be able to start shooting video or start shooting pictures if you are in the other setting. As long as you have your settings ready and you switch between one and the other, you can just start taking pictures or video and it's gonna work fine. You can also shoot JPEGs when you're shooting video. In the end, I want to say that this is a camera that I really enjoy using it. I've used it for other little things. I shot a short documentary recently and I used it to shoot other short films from other friends, as a B cam, and it worked out really well. It was easy to match with their Blackmagic cameras and whatever they were using, and it looked really nice. If you want to use this camera for video purposes, or if you want to use this camera again for wedding videography, I would 100% recommend it. You're not gonna be let down by this camera or disappointed. I think for most people this camera is gonna be more than enough. Being able to shoot at 24, 30, 60, 120 frames per second in 4K, and you can shoot 8K if you want, and you can shoot between shooting in 8-bit, 10-bit, you can shoot in 12-bit. So great camera. I'm really glad that I have this camera. So if you were considering this camera, or you are considering this camera for video purposes, I 100 would recommend it. But there's many options right now for cameras: Sony, Canon, Lumix. There's so many crazy cameras right now, or Cam or Blackmagic cameras that would give you extremely good results right now. So at the end, it's gonna be up to you to make a decision. This is an expensive camera, so I don't know. You have to really think which camera system you're gonna want to stick with, because you don't want to be changing next year and then in 2 years and 3 years systems. I mean, if you can do that, that's fine. That's not the case with me. I'm not rich. So pay attention, look at comparisons, watching these kinds of videos, they're helpful. That's how I stayed, or some of the things that I did that led me to decide to stay with Nikon for so many years, and I probably will for so many more. That's all I gotta say for the video of today. If you have any questions, let me know down here. Don't forget to subscribe. That really helps me, motivates me, supports this channel, and it really does. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.